As race relations remain in the forefront of conversation, many wonder, how far has America come? 50 years ago, just as integration began, 2 men were convicted of bombing a fleet of Longview buses. It made national headlines then and is still a story being told today. KETK's My Owen spoke with people who remember and responded to that devastating day as they explain how the past can serve as a lesson for the future. Here is our special report.
July 4th, 1970, a day engraved in the history of Longview.
Being told that this entire fleet of buses had been destroyed.
Didn't think something like that could happen or would happen in Longview area.
I called in some of the Texas Rangers to do this investigation and to figure out really what was happening.
According to court documents, 2 men, Fred Lloyd Hayes and Kenneth Ray McMaster, placed dynamite underneath Longview ISD school buses. The explosion causing serious damage, not only to property, but also to the minds of African Americans during that time.
Didn't think that it was really that bad, like even now. But anything can happen because you don't know where people are mentally. I was really taken by it because I love Longview. Growing
up in Longview for the past 48 years, Ward is reminded of what happened just before he was born. Actions that were echoed in school.
When I was in elementary, that was sometimes kids were being treated different.
The crime was a plan in order to destroy transportation for African American students. Days before the bombing, on June 17th, 1970, a federal judge approved for buses to carry black students to all-white schools, creating public school integration, a move that was being mirrored throughout the South.
And this right at the time of desegregation, you know, so we understood what this was all about.
For Ward, the headlines just a fraction of everyday life.
Grade school and all of that, I never felt that I was separated from everyone else until I started learning that certain people live in a certain area and we lived in another area.
He describes it as the Great Divide in Longview.
Because you had blacks that didn't stay in a certain area and you had, you know, only whites.
Stating it still exists today.
That was a time that blacks were not even allowed to walk down that particular street. In fact, they had the park, the city park, had a fence around it, and it had on there during that time that blacks were not allowed inside the city park.
Days before the bombing, the 2 men convicted of the crime blew up a house purchased by a black woman in a white Nacogdoches neighborhood. Major incidents in a small town, yet many living in Longview today are not aware of the explosive past.
I think it's a really significant moment in our history. It's kind of one of these big moments of transition for us socially, politically, and it really affected everyday folks.
Dr. Elizabeth Melton created her dissertation around her hometown's history.
Having grown up in the public school system in Longview and just in East Texas, right, being kind of aware of the undertones without really having necessarily the language to understand what was happening.
Creating a play in hopes to spark conversation about moments from desegregation, following in her father's footsteps.
Dad's work on the school board and then later as he helped start the Race Relations Committee in Longview also really influenced me and motivated me to kind of want to continue some of that work.
Collecting stories from parents, teachers, and students connected to desegregation in the 70s.
Just kind of being faced with the stories repeatedly again and again of people being called the N-word, right? Or just like these kind of small but everyday acts of violence that was even more common, I think, when things were segregated.
Learning in 2020, change still needs to happen.
The world is still really struggling with how we deal with racism and how we address it.
Hands up! Don't shoot! As protests and calls of actions continue, many wonder how far America has come.
We are divided. And somewhere we have to find the place of saying, you know what, we can't allow what the past produce for the present, but we need to change it.
A message to those marching to remember the past in order for a brighter future. Maya Owens, KETK News.
To read more about this story and its history, please visit our website,